He doesn't understand that he's the one who has the power to stop it. He simply can't imagine that one little boy could be that important. Bastion, don't you do what you dream, Bastion! Bastion! Please! Save us!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, I am SocioPsycho, and this is Mob Reviews, and today we will be taking a look at Bastion. This was created by Supergiant Games, and it is a narrational-led hack and slash with a complimentary par-for-par soundtrack right on up in there. It is available for PC, Mac, and Linux, and is it any good? Well, we shall find out, won't we? And we'll start by going into the options menu. The controls are all pretty simple to rebind. I've had no issues on that regard whatsoever, so that's definitely nice. Now you do have how to play, which is just a little overlay of the controls in case it's been a while and you can get back, so that's always nice. When we go into settings, there's not too much in this category, but the settings overall are split up. You have brightness, music, and sound volumes, all split up by different sliders, which is nice. The narrational sense is done in a very professional manner, which is reactive to the deeds and actions you take in the world, why it has such a good and odd but unique and carefully crafted fluidity in the game. Same with the music. Now when we jump into display, there's not much options here. Full screen, vertical sync, and anti-aliasing, only up to 4x. The game graphically doesn't look horrible, but it does have a unique art style to it. When it comes to performance issues, the game's been running at 45 frames per second. There's been no tearing or clipping and or any crashing. The only issue that I had during the playing of this game would actually be recording the options menu. The game would crash on that regard. Now, when it comes down to the gameplay, there is a small chance, very unlikely, it's only happened to me about twice, and it comes to getting the right set of annoyances where you get knocked off a ledge or some variation, and you end up respawning back onto a ledge that has no option or availability to escape from. Other than that though, the game has been running fairly well. The screen resolutional options and sizes that they do have actually are on another outlet, and as you can see, they do have a large variable of different screen resolutions, which is definitely nice to have. Now the game also has leaderboards tied into it, which is nice. There's not too many sections where leaderboards are a huge deal. There are challenges in the game which are time-based orientated. How well can you do? How much damage can you not take? You know, the standard leaderboard-esque qualities. When you jump into there, you have the availability to choose as in between which challenges and the times. It's very easy to manage, and people who enjoy leaderboards should not have a problem with that at all. Now we're going to start off talking about the story, as the story in the game is pretty simplistic. A calamity, or as we would know it, a sort of apocalypse has hit this world, and you play as this character who is needed to sort of bring everybody together, bring the survivors together, and rebuild a smidge of society. Doing this, you fight different sorts of creatures and monsters along the way, with a story that goes hand in hand. Now I said that the narrational sense of the game was interactive, and that's why this game has such a fluidity in its sense. If you come across an enemy and you pop up your shield and you reflect some of the damage, block at the correct time, and a spike is coming towards you, you can easily turn that spike back towards the enemy. After this happens, there's a possibility or chance it bases the narration off of your actions, so it makes you feel like what you're doing actually has some sort of impact upon the world, because the story of your actions is being unfolded and told as you go along. Now the music also helps propel this, as the music is very well done in the game. The music fills in the gap areas in between, whether, oh no, there's a threat coming up, or this is a more of a mellow, smooth area. The music is very good and very well done, as you no doubt have seen that people have said that this has a great soundtrack, and I will agree to that. It puts the music in all the right places at the right times. That backed in with a narrational sense. The story of its very self is basic. You're not going to be running through and having some huge in-depth story novel book, but for what the story has in it and the professionalism narrational wise, the performers is very well done, and it helps propel a fluidity of the combat and the actions, making what you do or making you want to do more of what you do. And I'll let you hear some of that for yourself now.
After all, he's got the final core. His journey's over, right? Well, no, it ain't. Not by a long shot. Place is so raw, even the Calamity couldn't cook it. Not all of it. Digs his way out of the clearing, but the wilds won't let him go without a fight.
Now you have a home base. This home base is the pinnacle, really, of the purpose of your game, because you need to gather up resources from the world, these crystals, the magic crystals. And you fight through different missions, and you complete the different tasks. And there are some areas which are challenge areas, which tie into the leaderboards, like I said earlier. And these challenge areas, you'll have the availability, the better you do time-wise, then you'll get the most top-tier reward. But the missions and the overlay and the understanding of where you are versus where the missions are available are very easy to recognize. And the home base sort of fulfills this product. In the home base, as you level up, your leveling up is actually rewarded. Not in a sense of, hey, you've got 5 new abilities and you've got 10 new ability points to put in different stats. No, it's very simplistic, as you can upgrade as you go through. You do gather some sort of materials, which you can then either upgrade your weapons that you have gathered up. Hey, this hammer, I have an item that will allow me to pick and upgrade. Because the availability to your skills and upgrades do come down to what abilities for what weapons you do pick to go in. You can't pick all of them. You can pick 3 out of 6. So you tailor make your own gameplay based not only off of what weapon you wish to take into combat, but also what upgrades for that weapon. And it goes further, and this is why the game has a level of fluidity or customization which people can resonate with, because on top of being able to choose which type of weapon you want to take, you also have the availability to choose what type of special power you want to take into the combat. It's very simplistic. When you go into combat, you have your health bar, health potions, and ability potions. This will allow you to feel a sense of fluidity throughout the entire game. And when you go into town, as you level up, there is a place where you can easily just, hey, I want to take this vial of this potion, or hey, I unlocked this potion, let me take this one into combat instead of the other one. And it will tailor make your game. That's not enough. In the beginning of a game, you have a choice to either pick a more I just want to experience the game option in the difficulty. The difficulty slider is not set in stone on the beginning option. It really just comes down to, if I die once, there's a chance that I'm not going to be able to get back up, versus die as many times as you want. Now, you will not lose your progress. We're not talking about hardcore, we're just talking about losing that mission, failure state for that mission. But you have the availability via the relic outpost to tailor your difficulty that you want to play the game as to a little bit stronger. Do you want the enemy to regenerate? Do you want them to attack faster? Do you want there to be more of them, harder, hitter? Whatever variable of different relics that you want to be active while you go into combat, while you do these missions, will wield a larger experience pool, which will allow you to level up faster. But it will get harder, and the game is not one that is just going to hold your hand. You will require to understand what weapons you're taking into combat, will understand, hey, how do I move, how do I jump, how do I dodge if need be, and be aware of what the enemy does. Now, it is forgiving, and it is capable of trial and error, but the harder you make the difficulty, the more skilled you need to be to actually get through the game, and I can respect it for that. It doesn't hold your hand in either trying to put you through the content or in saying, well, this should be hard enough for you. It opens the door and says, well, you pick your poison, and that I can respect. Now, in base, you do have the option to go to this dimensional world, sort of like a sleep-esque area. It tells a little bit more of the story, and it's a good place to farm experience or try new weapons or abilities if that's what you wish to. It is a long-paced area, sort of like an arena where you fight through waves of enemies until you either survive or die. And you have the option to leave if you want to abandon progress. So if you're like, hey, I just want to test out these weapons and see how this works, you have that availability. You're not stuck in there. It's not you walk in and the door is slammed behind you. You can leave if that's all you want. So I appreciate that as well. The buildings in the game that you do come across tie into the story because you need resources, these crystals, which allow a plot of land to open up and you can build one of these shops. Now, from that shop, you can eventually upgrade it to have even more stronger. So it's like, hey, I can upgrade my weapons more, or I can have more potions, or I can upgrade a possibility for more relics in the trophy hall. What you decide to upgrade is just more, again, tailored to your experience. The more effort you put in, the more things you upgrade, but you go and choose what you want and where you feel comfortable first. Which brings us to the combat of the game. The combat of the game, I would not say is sluggish at all. While it does run at 45 frames per second, it has a fluidity about it. Now, the main fluidity of the game does come down to the narrational sense of it, because what you do has weight due to the voice acting in the game, giving it a greater purpose than it normally would. You kill a monster and you don't think, well, now I get somebody to tell that exploit of me killing that monster. You just kill that monster and get experience. But in this case, it has a little bit more of a renown of what you did has some value or some sort of progressional push to keep going through the game. The combat in its base stat is very simplistic. It's simply a very limited hack and slash. You dodge one way, you dodge the other, basically move. You rotate if you're melee, you fight the enemy up close. If you're ranged, you try to stay and keep your distance. The combat is not anything that is mind-boggling or completely, whoa, this is never seen before. It's very simple, it's very basic, but that's not a bad thing. It is a basic combat structure, but the combat is done flawlessly. You have an interactive capability to continuously be able to pop up your shield. There is a time delay, obviously, because you need to bring up your shield. So you have to position the, okay, I'm going to get hit here, and give a feel for when to react to a situation. Because you can knock attacks against enemies back at them, or you can stun charging enemies that are coming right to you if you put your shield up, as well as the need to dodge out of the way of creatures, otherwise they'll just rip you apart. There are different variables which definitely put into a combat of a, well, I need to try harder, or I need to hit them from a distance, or some variable. It is very simplistic: attack, dodge, and heal by using potions or special abilities. But for what it has, it does it right. Because I never once felt that my time was being wasted or disrespected. I never felt that anything I was doing in the game didn't matter. I had a continuational reinforcement of positive attitude to, hey, good job, you're moving forward, you're making progress, and you are valued. Now that may sound narcissistic, but at the same time, we all want to feel good, and we all want to have weight behind our combat. We all want to feel satisfied from that. This pulls that off. It feels satisfying, and it gives you that psychological reason and acquirance for doing what you're doing. So at the end of the day, the story is done in a great way, in a narrational sense where you are along for a ride. The combat you choose with the skills that you take that are interactive with the ability and the world, and then on top of that, the narration interacts with the skills and abilities that you've chosen. So if you go in as one play with a hammer and a bow, it's going to have different narrational good jobs, or hey, kill that monster with a bow shot between the eyes. But then if you go another time with a knife or some variation, a sword or whatnot, the talking points, the continuational push forward will be slightly different. Obviously the underlying story will be the same, but how the narration reacts to the weapons you use during your combat is what really pushes the combat and pushes your psychological capability to want to play more, to continue to feel a sense of pride in saving this world. The game has done good, and there's been no issues on that front. I do not regret my time playing it, nor do I have any issues with the game. It's not a in-depth, high-pace, hack and slash, build a character with 70 skill points type game. But it tells a nice story, and it has a nice little combat and fluidity to the combat with weight and precision tied in behind it. So I can easily recommend it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening and watching. For I've been SocioPsycho, this has been Mob Reviews, and I will hope to see you next time.